Ali McGraw was once the face of innocence in Hollywood, the woman who made the world cry in Love Story and became an overnight icon. To millions, she was the perfect star, graceful, untouchable, and adored by everyone who watched her on screen. But behind that image was a very different reality. Her life wasn't a fairy tale. It was a story of control, sacrifice, and heartbreak that would nearly destroy her. At the height of her fame, Ali walked away from Hollywood, not because she wanted to, but because the man known as the King of Cool, Steve McQueen, demanded it. Their romance was explosive, intoxicating, and glamorous from the outside. But inside, it was fueled by jealousy, betrayal, and a darkness that few ever knew. Decades later, McGraw broke her silence, revealing the truth about the relationship that almost cost her everything. This is not just the story of a star, it's the story of how love can lift you to the top, then shatter you to pieces, and how one woman clawed her way back from the edge to find peace again. Long before she was the darling of Hollywood, Ali McGraw's story began in the quiet town of Bedford Village, New York. But her childhood was far from calm. Her father battled alcoholism, and her parents' constant fighting created a storm at home that left her questioning her worth from the very beginning. She learned early what chaos felt like and how badly she wanted to escape it. Modeling became her ticket out. Under the guidance of legendary editor Diana Vreeland, McGraw broke into the fashion world and quickly stood out. Her striking presence on camera turned heads, and soon Hollywood came calling. In 1969, she made her film debut in Goodbye Columbus, a movie that not only earned critical acclaim, but also put her directly on the radar of the industry's biggest players. It was around this time she met Robert Evans, the powerful head of production at Paramount Pictures. Evans didn't just see a rising actress, he saw a star, and he had the influence to make it happen. When he cast her in Love Story, 1970, everything changed. The film became a worldwide phenomenon, grossing over $100 million and immortalizing the line, "Love means never having to say you're sorry." Overnight, Ali McGraw transformed from a model with ambition into one of the most sought-after actresses in Hollywood. She was on top of the world, married to Evans, mother to their son Joshua, and celebrated as the industry's newest leading lady. From the outside, her life looked flawless, but destiny was already setting the stage for a decision that would take everything she had built and turn it upside down. By 1972, Hollywood was buzzing about a new Sam Peckinpah film called The Getaway. It was gritty, dangerous, and set to star Steve McQueen, the man who had already built a reputation as the King of Cool. Robert Evans, confident in his wife's talent, secured Ali the role of McQueen's on-screen wife. On paper, it was the perfect career move. In reality, it would change her life forever. Ali later admitted she hesitated when she got the offer. Out loud, she said she worried about leaving her young son behind. But deep down, she knew the real reason. Something inside her told her that working alongside Steve McQueen would be dangerous. Her instincts were right. McQueen wasn't just another actor. He was magnetic, tough, rebellious, and unpredictable, with a presence that could silence a room. Ali described it as chemical. When he walked in, people turned their heads. Men, women, even children. Everyone noticed, and despite being married to Evans, Ali was pulled into McQueen's orbit almost immediately. Their chemistry on set was undeniable, and soon it spilled into real life. The affair started in Texas during filming and quickly became one of the most talked about scandals in Hollywood. The press painted it as a glamorous romance, a love story off-screen just as intense as the one playing out on camera. But behind that excitement was betrayal. Robert Evans, the man who had discovered her, the man who had built her career, was blindsided. The marriage collapsed, and by the end of 1972, Ali filed for divorce. The headlines made it look like Ali had traded one Hollywood powerhouse for another, and in July of 1973, she and Steve McQueen married, solidifying the fairy tale that fans thought they were watching unfold. But this wasn't the beginning of a fairy tale, it was the beginning of a storm. From the outside, their Malibu home looked like paradise. The couple hosted barbecues on the beach, walked hand in hand along the shoreline, and smiled for the cameras like Hollywood's golden pair. But behind the closed doors of that house, Steve McQueen was not the charming king of cool everyone else saw. He was controlling, deeply insecure, and determined to mold Ali McGraw into the wife he wanted her to be. Even before the wedding, McQueen laid down his terms. He insisted on a prenuptial agreement that cut her off from any financial claims if they divorced. And worse, he demanded she give up her acting career entirely. Ali McGraw was at the peak of her fame, one of the most in-demand actresses in the world, and yet she walked away. Out of fear of losing him, she traded red carpets and scripts for cooking, cleaning, and raising her young son. In her own words, she admitted she became the simple woman McQueen wanted. She played the role of the perfect homemaker, serving his needs while burying her own ambitions. But the cost was enormous. With every premiere she missed, with every script she turned down, a piece of her identity slipped away. Hollywood moved on without her, and the woman once called the brightest new star was now hidden in the shadows of her husband. And yet McQueen's demands didn't end there. His jealousy was relentless. If Ali so much as looked at another man, it sparked rage. Ironically, McQueen himself flirted openly and was rumored to have multiple affairs throughout their marriage. The double standard cut deeply, leaving her silenced and powerless. The world still saw her as the woman who had it all: fame, beauty, and the most admired man in Hollywood. But in reality, she was living a life of sacrifice, shrinking smaller with each passing year, terrified that if she spoke up, she would lose him entirely. By the mid-1970s, the dream had soured. What once looked like a perfect Hollywood marriage had turned into a house filled with tension, suspicion, and silence. Steve McQueen's insecurities, born from a childhood of abandonment and betrayal, resurfaced in full force. His jealousy became unbearable. He questioned Ali constantly, watching her every move, convinced she would betray him. Yet while he guarded her every step, McQueen himself lived recklessly. He drank heavily, used drugs, and flaunted his charm around other women. Rumors of his affairs spread across Hollywood, each one cutting Ali deeper than the last. She had given up her career and her independence to be his wife, yet he openly broke the vows he demanded she uphold. The imbalance was crushing. To the public, McGraw was still seen as the glamorous wife of Hollywood's biggest star, but in private, she was sinking. The isolation of Malibu, combined with McQueen's mood swings and volatility, left her emotionally starved. Slowly, she turned to alcohol, slipping into the same cycle of self-destruction that had already consumed him. She described herself as playing the role of cook, cleaning lady, simple woman to the hilt. But inside, she was suffocating. Every day was a performance, pretending to smile, pretending to be happy while her true voice stayed locked away. She admitted later that she was terrified of being abandoned if she spoke her mind, so she stayed quiet, swallowing her pain and hoping her silence would keep the marriage alive. But silence doesn't erase reality. Behind the Malibu walls, shouting matches, cold silences, and nights of McQueen disappearing into drugs and alcohol became normal. Ali found herself walking on eggshells, unsure which version of Steve would come home, charming and magnetic, or distant and explosive. The man she once saw as irresistible now felt like a stranger she couldn't control. For a time, she convinced herself this was the price of love, but the weight of betrayal, fear, and addiction was building to a breaking point. The storm that began as whispers of jealousy and sacrifice was about to erupt into a collapse neither of them could stop. By 1976, the cracks could no longer be hidden. On magazine covers and movie posters, Steve McQueen was still Hollywood's ultimate rebel, the tough guy who raced cars, rode motorcycles, and made audiences believe in freedom. But at home, the legend was unraveling. His addictions had a stronger grip than ever, his paranoia was sharper, and his marriage to Ali was crumbling under the weight of resentment. For Ali, the silence had become unbearable. She had walked away from fame, from independence, and from herself, all to please a man who was never satisfied. The jealousy, the affairs, the volatility, it was too much. And in 1977, she finally admitted the truth to him. She wanted to act again. It wasn't just about work. It was about reclaiming her voice, taking back the career and the life she had been forced to abandon. But instead of support, McQueen gave her an ultimatum. According to biographer Mark Elliott, his response was cold and final. In that case, we are filing for divorce. Those words shattered any illusion of love left between them. They proved what Ali had feared all along, that her choices, her dreams, and her identity had never mattered. She was either his possession or she was nothing. Determined not to lose herself completely, she accepted a role in Sam Peckinpah's Convoy in 1978. That decision made reconciliation impossible. The marriage, once hailed as Hollywood's most glamorous union, ended in divorce that same year. But the story didn't end there. Just 2 years later, tragedy struck. At only 50 years old, Steve McQueen was diagnosed with mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer caused by asbestos exposure. In November 1980, the king of cool was gone. His death shocked the industry and broke the hearts of millions of fans who had idolized him. For Ali, the grief was complicated. Despite the anger, the betrayal, and the years of pain, she admitted she had loved him profoundly. Looking back, she summed it up in one heartbreaking line: "I wish we had both grown old sober." A life that could have been destroyed by addiction, pride, and control. When Steve McQueen died in 1980, Ali McGraw was just 41 years old. She wasn't his wife anymore, but his loss still hit her like a thunderclap. For years, she had feared abandonment. Now she was forced to face the finality of death. And while the world mourned the king of cool, Ali was left with scars that no one could see. Her career, once so full of promise, never recovered from the years she sacrificed. She returned to acting, taking a role in Convoy in 1978, and later joining the hit soap dynasty in 1984. But Hollywood had moved on. The sparkle that once made her the industry's brightest star was gone, replaced by typecasting and rejection. Behind the cameras, the struggle was even harsher. The habits she had developed during her years with McQueen, drinking to numb the pain, burying her voice to avoid conflict, followed her long after the marriage ended. Alcohol became both a comfort and a cage. The higher she tried to climb, the deeper she seemed to sink. By the early 1990s, the downward spiral reached a breaking point. Ali realized that if she didn't confront her addiction, it would consume her completely. She entered treatment at the Betty Ford Center, beginning the grueling process of recovery. There, she was forced to face not only her dependency, but also the emotional scars left behind by her childhood, her failed marriages, and the years she had spent in McQueen's shadow. It was a turning point. For the first time in decades, Ali wasn't living for someone else's expectations. She was fighting for herself. The woman who had once been silenced was finally beginning to reclaim her voice. After decades of chaos, Ali McGraw finally chose peace. In the early 1990s, she walked away from the industry that had both crowned her and chewed her up, leaving Hollywood behind for the quiet desert landscape of Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was a radical shift. From red carpets and flashing cameras to adobe walls, open skies, and silence. But in that silence, she began to heal. She embraced sobriety with a fierce commitment, and year after year, she built a life rooted in balance. Yoga and meditation became her daily anchors. Gardening, painting, and caring for animals filled her days with a simplicity she had once only dreamed of. Far from Malibu's spotlight and McQueen's shadow, she was free to live on her own terms for the first time. Her creativity never disappeared. It simply transformed. She partnered with the fashion collective Ibu, helping to design clothing that celebrated craftsmanship while empowering female artisans across the globe. For Ali, this wasn't just fashion, it was purpose. A way to turn her pain into empowerment, to transform her years of sacrifice into a movement that gave other women the independence she once surrendered. Unlike so many Hollywood legends, Ali never remarried. She didn't search for another leading man to complete her story. Instead, she found strength in solitude, building her life around self-discovery and deep friendships that became her anchors. She proved that love doesn't always mean belonging to someone else. It can mean finally belonging to yourself. Her recovery wasn't just about leaving behind alcohol or surviving heartbreak. It was about rewriting the script of her life. And in Santa Fe, Ali McGraw showed the world that sometimes the greatest comeback isn't a blockbuster role, but the quiet decision to reclaim your own story, page by page, day by day. Today, at 85 years old, Ali McGraw is no longer the starlet frozen in time by love story. She is a survivor, one who has lived through fame, heartbreak, addiction, and loss, and emerged with the wisdom that only pain can teach. In interviews, she speaks with honesty, never sugarcoating the past. She admits the pull of Steve McQueen was undeniable, chemical as she once described it, but she refuses to romanticize what came after. "There were wonderful days and dreadful days," she said. "I'm not a victim in any way." That balance, acknowledging both the magic and the misery, has made her story resonate far beyond Hollywood. Her resilience shows in the way she carries herself. She has been sober for more than 30 years, a milestone she once thought impossible. She often reflects that she used to rewrite the past or fantasize about the future, but now she focuses only on living fully in the present. That clarity, earned after decades of turmoil, is perhaps her greatest achievement. She has also found ways to reconnect with the beauty of her beginnings. In 2016, she reunited with her love story co-star Ryan O'Neal for a stage production of Love Letters. Their chemistry still charmed audiences, reminding fans of the magic that first made her famous. But for Allie, it wasn't about nostalgia. It was about celebrating friendships that endured, even as life pulled them in different directions. Through her work with women's collectives, her devotion to wellness, and her quiet life in Santa Fe, Allie McGraw has shown that reinvention doesn't require an audience. Her legacy isn't just the iconic roles she played, it's the courage to tell the truth about the life behind them. Allie McGraw's journey is more than just another Hollywood love story. It's a reminder of how quickly fame can fade, how love can turn into control, and how even the brightest stars can be forced into the shadows. She was the woman who gave up everything at the height of her career for a man who never gave her the same in return. And yet, instead of letting that define her, she rebuilt. She chose sobriety, solitude, and self-discovery over chaos. Her story isn't about tragedy, it's about survival, about a woman who walked through betrayal, heartbreak, and addiction, and still found the strength to stand tall decades later. Allie McGraw proves that even when the world writes your script for you, you can always reclaim the pen. But what do you think? Was her sacrifice for Steve McQueen a tragic mistake, or was it part of the journey that made her who she is today? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take. And if you found this story powerful, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next.